Hello. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I've been having some microphone issues, so would appreciate if somebody can chime in and tell me if you can hear me. Great, thank you, John. It's happened every time the past few times, and I'm talking and nobody's hearing me, and my lips are moving. So thank you. Hi, Amy, welcome. Wonderful to have everybody here tonight in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe in the daytime if you're in Australia. And I'm excited about our live stream today, which is going to be about when playing small is no longer an option. When playing small is no longer an option. So I'm really glad and grateful for Insight Timer, for all of the community here, for those of you that are new, for those of you who have been with me for a long time. J.E., Britt, speaking of some of you, and Amy as well. And again, I can't see who's here anymore unless you say something, so I don't want to leave anybody out. But welcome, welcome. I wanted to sit on my couch for the live stream tonight, so you get to see me on the couch. And I have these beautiful artworks here. It's dark because it's nighttime, but they are beautiful, very professional photographs. And one of my life coaches is Chinese, and you can't see it now, but there's Chinese writing on the photographs. And so it was cool because she told me, oh, it says harmony or peace. And I was like, I love that. It's like hidden messages that are right here that I didn't even know was there until she pointed it out. So yeah, welcome, Esther. Glad you're back. Good to see you. So if you are new to me, I'm Natalie, spiritual life coach, Reiki master teacher. You can follow me here. There will be a screen pop up on the screen, or a button. If you don't follow me already, I would appreciate that. It helps me grow. It helps me get more exposure in Insight Timer, which helps me to continue to do these sorts of things and help others. So thank you so much. You can also join my group here, Natalie's Healing Circle. It's a place where we can stay connected. I give announcements and updates. Thank you, Esther. As I said, I've been having problems with this microphone. Is anybody else having an audio issue in hearing me? I was just troubleshooting that earlier, actually. I'm going to unplug it and plug it back in, and maybe that will help. Yeah, I think I've got a faulty microphone. This is a brand new, expensive microphone, so... And also my Wi-Fi is breaking up, so it might be that. Hi, Maureen, thank you. Thank you, Britt. Thank you so much. Aw. I so appreciate that, Britt. And I do have room for a couple new clients, so If anybody feels the heart call, please reach out. And I imagine you can still hear me. And yeah, my Wi-Fi was bad, so it might have been that. But please and thank you. If there is a sound issue, because it could be one of two things. Wonderful. It's a group effort today. Hi, Brenda. Welcome. And thank you so much, Britt. Hi, Lady Peacock. So today as I said, and we'll go ahead and dive in, we are going to be talking about when playing small is no longer an option. Hey, Butterfly Rain. So how many of you here, when you think about playing small, do you feel like, I'm done with doing this. This is no longer going to be an option for me? And if so, give an emoji in the chat. Or even if you're leaning towards it, maybe you might not be like 100% in. But you're on the way. You're moving towards that. Awesome, Britt. Of course you are. So, hi Blake. Welcome. There comes a moment when shrinking, when holding back, when dimming your light, when abandoning yourself to stay safe isn't an option anymore. So we're going to explore this. There's an edge between who you are and who you're becoming. And we're going to talk about how to cross that threshold. Hey, Susan, you're done. So I've had a lot of moments in my recent life where I am also done with things within myself. And, it's caused me pain for a long time, but yet I wasn't willing to give up the behaviors and the patterns and the habits because I was getting something out of it. But I had to come to a place where it was more painful to stay the same, and it was less painful to change. So that's the magic formula. And in my coaching, this comes up sometimes. And I make this distinction. You need to really hear it and let it land. When staying the same is more painful than change, you will change. Because change is painful. Change is difficult and hard and unknown. And when we change, we have to give things up. And when we're in that space, it's like, but I don't want to give this up because I'm getting something out of it. But the thing is that it's a law of diminishing returns. We get less and less out of it. And so then there comes a tipping point where I can't do this anymore. It's too painful to be like this. I don't care the cost. I am ready and I'm going to make the change, even though it's hard, even though it's uncomfortable, painful, out of my comfort zone. And Amy, you're speaking for, others in the room, and Heather is one. And that's where I was too. I wanted to be ready. I wanted to do it, but I knew I wasn't there yet. And so I had to get to a place where I was in enough pain. And leading up to that was a lot of prayer to, my experience of a higher power. The internet is dropping, so if it's breaking up, that's why. So there's a turning point. And when we're talking about playing small, what is the cost of that? It leaks our energy. We feel resentful when we play small. We resent ourselves. We resent others. Maybe there's, this knowing or a nudge of like, I know there's more for me. And then there is a turning point. And maybe you'll ask yourself, like, who am I to do the thing? Who am I to think I could? And then switching it to, who am I not to do it? And if you're in that space and you want support on that, this is the work I do, among many other things of this nature with my life coaching clients. So I want to ask everybody to put your answer in the chat. Where in your life are you still playing small? How does that show up for you? Where are you not speaking up? Where are you speaking less? Where are you asking for less? Where are you settling for less? Where are you settling? Where are you tolerating? What are you tolerating? I'm going to do a whole live stream. The topic is going to be, what are you tolerating? So that will be coming up very soon. I'm about to schedule November's live streams. That can be a very powerful question for you to answer. So put an emoji in the chat that describes where you're playing small, or put a word in the chat. What does that look like for you? Where are you silencing yourself? Where are you shrinking? Delaying tough conversations. I could ask you, you don't have to answer, you could think about it. You could also reach out and let me know. What are you afraid of? If there's anybody here who has a conversation they've been putting off or avoiding, what are you afraid of? You can also ask yourself, by playing small, what are you protecting? There's a reason for it. So Britt says fear of conflict, fear of confrontation. Of course. Who else has that fear? I know I do. Yeah, and not standing up for yourself is playing small. It also could be looked at as a form of self-abandonment or self-betrayal, and not using that to shame yourself about, but just as like, oh, this is how that shows up. Because when we silence ourselves to keep the peace or to stay small, then we're betraying ourselves and nobody wins. Brenda, Heather. So by playing small, and I love this example, thank you for bringing it up, Britt, delaying a tough conversation, we get to stay safe. Maybe we get approval, or we keep approval. Maybe we feel belonging. Maybe we feel safe. Maybe we feel in control. If we have a conversation where there might be conflict, there might be we don't know what's going to happen. Well, we might lose control. We aren't going to be able to predict the outcome. So what would become possible if you let yourself be fully visible? What would be possible if you let yourself be fully visible and stopped playing small? And we want to look at the positive possibility. On the other side of a tough conversation, on the other side of a boundary, on the other side of leaving a relationship that's not working, or a job, or a town, or a country. It's looking at, not looking at what you're giving up, but what you're going to gain. So where do you feel ready to rise in your own life? Where do you feel ready to rise? It might even could be in creativity. Maybe you keep telling yourself, I'm going to write that book, I'm going to take that class, and you keep moving it down the priority ladder and breaking your word to yourself that you're not doing it. And that's damaging too, internally. So maybe it's time to, dedicate that time on your calendar to writing X amount per day. Maybe it's, I'm going to buy the supplies to do the art thing, or I'm going to take the class. So this could be in anything. So this isn't about, it's not a moral failing. It's not a value judgment. It's not that, somebody's bad and wrong if they're playing small. It's actually a safety mechanism, right? So we want to notice and give voice to that. It's a safety strategy. Because what did we do when we were children? When we felt threatened, probably hide, learn to not speak up, learn to be agreeable. So this pattern once kept us safe from criticism, but now it's a cage. It's a cage, and if you're feeling it, and if you know it, and if you have the cognition of this pattern happening, it's like you're outgrowing the cage, and now your elbows are popping out, and you're like, I'm picturing a big monster that's in a too small cage. That's how this is for you. So what are the signs that you're still playing small? How many of you, if you resonate with these, put it in the chat. So number 1, you minimize your wins or your victories. And that could even be you might discount compliments people give you, or discount praise. How many of you have done that? Heather thinks there's a fear of seeing past your denial of the cage. So that you're getting something out of being in your comfort zone. I mean, being in the cage is the comfort zone, right? So as far as minimizing wins, how many of you have said, oh, it was nothing. Oh, that's no big deal that I did that. Who all can relate to that? I notice I can do that with everything I've achieved as far as my lifestyle and my freedom. I left the U.S. in 2013. I've lived around the world. I've worked remote since then. Now I've had my own business almost 5 years. I can see a voice that would minimize that. So Amy feeling finances is part of the reason for playing small. Yeah, it sounds like you didn't say the word sacrifice, but what I'm seeing in that is like you're sacrificing now to keep your daughter's life steady, and the sacrificing might be in the form of playing small in some ways in your life. And then also having doubt. Yeah. So, I wonder what it could look like for you, because what I'm hearing in that is maybe a judgment that you're settling. So I'm picking up on like self-judgment. So there. And if we were in a one-on-one conversation, of course, we'd be able to dive into that. But yeah, great example. So another sign that you're still playing small, you delay action until you feel ready. How many of you have delayed action, have procrastinated, waiting until the perfect time, waiting until you feel ready? When I coach other life coaches, I run into this a lot. New coaches trying to start their coaching business. There's tons of this. Well, I can't start now. I need another certification. I need this or that. I'm not good enough yet. I can't charge yet. There's tons of things I hear. And of course it can show up in other ways. That's just an example. It might be leaving a relationship or stopping a bad habit. Amy's a yes. So the next one, how many of you, this one might be subtle, how many of you dim your enthusiasm so others feel comfortable? To me, that reminds me of like dimming our light so we don't threaten people around us. And these might be naysayers. So if we're around naysayers in our life, we might downplay our achievements, downplay our enthusiasm. We might censor ourselves in some way. Brenda, hi Marjorie. Yeses to that. And so then the question becomes like, do you really want those sorts of people in your circle? And honestly, I see that for myself personally, showing up with my relationship with my mother. That's the type of relationship that we have at this point. And what happens in those dynamics, we edit ourselves. There's a lot of editing going on of like, what is safe to say? What do I feel comfortable saying? What do I need to hold back on? And I play small around my mother still. That little Natalie still has wounds, wanting mommy to love her. Bless her heart. So another sign is, and this falls in with what I'm saying, you keep peace instead of the truth. And Britt's example earlier of like, afraid of conflict, so delaying a tough conversation. What's that? There's that quote, when we something like, when we keep the peace outside, we start a war inside. If we like silence ourselves to keep the peace, there might be peace out here, but there is a war in here because we're out of integrity. So, we're touching into many different dynamics, codependency, and so all sorts of relational things. The masks that we put on. That's a great example, Marjorie. Yeah, and we're our own worst inner critic, right? I had a call with one of my coaching clients today. They are a Hollywood actress, and they're trying to make it, and they see successful people in their world like friends. And what came up in the session today was all of this, noticing like all of these comparisons. And I told her, I was like, it sounds like you're suffering from comparisonitis. Because it's like she's comparing what she sees outside with her internal journey. And in 12-step, we say comparing our insides to other people's outsides. And that's never a good thing to do. So your example, Marjorie, kind of reminds me of that. Like, oh, here's my shiny CV, but what went on, how you got there, how that played out. So another way that you're still playing small could be, you're meant for more, and you rationalize why not now. So Amy, your example reminds me of this one about, sacrificing for your daughter. You're meant for more, and rationalizing why not now. So, what's the motivation? What's the reasoning behind why we do all of this? Of course, fear in its simplest sense. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of confrontation, fear of conflict, fear of the unknown. It also might be like, say, the one about dimming your enthusiasm so others feel comfortable, right? So that could be having a loyalty to others' comfort. And that reminds me of the dynamic of, have you ever changed a lot? Or maybe have you ever had an idea or had a plan for yourself in your life that you knew, if you told certain people, certain family, certain friends, they wouldn't support you? So you kept it to yourself. But if you told strangers, they'd be like, go for it, that's amazing. But if you tell the people closest to you, they're like, oh no, that's a bad idea. Why do you think you can do that? The reason that exists is because people are threatened when we change, and especially with family. They know us as a certain way. So anything that threatens their perception of us, they're not going to like. So me becoming a life coach 5 years ago almost, even me getting sober, I got sober at 22 in AA, and I was a horrible alcoholic and drug addict. I was a horrible mess. I was a shit show. So my family and everybody around me knew me as that. So, it could have threatened my family, like, oh wait, what is she doing now? I don't know this version of her. I mean, not that they didn't want me sober, but it might have, made them uncomfortable. So other reasons why we play small, it's self-protection, right? It's a habit of self-protection. We stay in the cage, we stay in the comfort zone, the uncomfortable comfort zone. And, playing small can be disguised as humility, like the minimizing our wins. So we can do 4 things to rise, R-I-S-E, to stop this pattern of playing small. So R, we can recognize when the pattern shows up. Everything has to start with that. If we don't have the recognition or the awareness, then we don't know it's there. So you might think a thought about a situation. You might be in a situation. You might notice your chest tightening. You might notice contraction. So just start noticing. I actually have a really great example that just came to mind about this. So I went, I'm going to plug this in. Let me know if the sound messes up. To keep it a very brief story without a bunch of details, I was in a conversation with somebody the other night that I didn't know, that I had just met. They were a very intense person. Thank you. Is that better? Testing, testing. I think I'm having a problem with my USB ports. You still hear it? Okay. Okay. Yes, are we good now or no? Going once, going twice. Thank you. And thank you for your help and bearing with me. There's obviously a huge problem. So thanks, Tanya and Jenny. I was in a conversation with somebody I had just met. There was a part of me that wanted to impress them or people please. And they were very intense, and I think they had a lot of mental and emotional problems, and they had a very tough life from the things they were telling me. And he was telling me this horrible story, and I'm just feeling my body in a trauma response as I'm hearing him tell his horrible story where he was horribly traumatized. And I don't think I've ever done this before, but I stopped him, and it was just me, and it was a one-on-one conversation. And I just stopped him, and I was like, I'm sorry, but your story is really stressing me out, and I'm so sorry that happened to you, and I'm finding it really hard to listen because I'm feeling very traumatized hearing it. And my body was just tight and contracted. I mean, we all know how that feels, like a trauma feeling. I don't think I've ever done that before. So in the example of like playing small, like the old me would not say anything and just and hold space, and which is nice too, right? And I did not want to sacrifice. Okay,